Welcome back to Crash Course in Medieval Armor, and today's topic is shoulder protection. From the 6th century until as late as the 11th century, Byzantine soldiers protected their shoulders with tarujas, which were strips of linen or leather with bronze or brass studs affixed to them for extra protection. They were also used by the Franks, Anglo-Saxons, Lombards, Carolingians, and Ottonians, but they fell out of common use in Western Europe by the 9th century. We haven't found any archaeological remains of the leather or linen strips, but evidence of their usage can be found in artistic works like the Stuttgart Psalter. By the 11th century, iron production and wire drawing had been developed enough to allow the chainmail hauberk to become the standard piece of full coverage armor. The problem of blunt force trauma remained, though. This problem was solved by eyelets, pieces of wood that were fixed to the shoulders by strips of leather or string passed through the rings of the hauberk. They helped diffuse kinetic energy across a larger surface area, but they were also used for heraldry. Knights would often paint their coat of arms on the eyelets so they could be easily identified in battle. Eyelets could also be made of cuirbouilli, boiled leather. This was a fascinating material that was created by soaking vegetable tanned leather in hot tallow, beeswax, or linseed oil. The wax or oil soaked into the pores and bound with the unraveled collagen proteins, forming a cross-linked polymer network that solidified into a waterproof, rigid, glossy, almost plastic material that was harder than wood. It could be shaped to fit the body and offered excellent protection against blunt force and bladed weapons alike. In the 14th century, as metalworking continued to advance, eyelets and cuirbouilli were replaced by articulating steel plates that were shaped to fit the shoulder and move with it. These were called spalders, with a shoulder cap that connected to metal strips called lames. They were connected to the hauberk with leather strips and buckled under the arm with straps. Their one fatal flaw was that they left the armpit exposed, and armpits tend to be a very bleedy part of the body. They fixed this problem with the addition of rondelles or besigues, which were round pieces of plate hung in front of the crease of the arm. About the same time, armorers were working on different solutions to the shoulder problem, one of which was the brigandine shoulder. These were made from small overlapping pieces of steel which formed a moving matrix underneath a covering of thick canvas held in place by brass rivets. The other, more permanent solution was the pauldron. Unlike spalders, pauldrons were attached to the torso itself either by the gorget or the cuirass. One large broad plate covered the shoulder itself, sweeping low enough on either side to cover both the armpit and the shoulder blade. This was then connected to a series of lames covering the upper arm. They were held in place either by internal leather straps or slotted rivets, allowing them to articulate as the arm moved. Pauldrons followed two main forms. The Gothic form, developed in Augsburg, Nuremberg, and Innsbruck, were fluted with ridges which improved the structural rigidity much like corrugated cardboard. The flutes also served to deflect thrusting strikes and arrows away from sensitive areas as the blade followed the fluted channels. The Milanese form leaned into asymmetry. The right shoulder prioritized mobility for the weapon arm, and it had a cutout which allowed the knight to couch his lance tightly into his armpit. The Milanese pauldron also featured vertical guards called haute pieces which protruded to deflect strikes against the neck and head. The left shoulder prioritized protection since lance blows were most commonly aimed at the left side. A large plate called a guard brace could be temporarily attached to the left pauldron by a cotter pin. This was typically worn in a cavalry charge and could be quickly removed for greater mobility if the battle devolved into a foot skirmish. As you can see, the development of medieval armor was simply a game of identifying weak points and then adapting to protect them. Next week will be all sorts of chest armor, so make sure to stay tuned.